Good morning, everyone. We're going to get started in a couple of minutes at the top of the hour. Just wanted to do a quick microphone check to make sure everyone can hear us. And we will be starting in about 2 minutes at the top of the hour. Good morning again. Thank you for joining us today and welcome to How to Use Teams and Channels provided by Microsoft. This is your host, Rob Evans. I am the VBA TMS Domain Manager. I work in the Office of Talent Management in the Leadership Development Division. I'd like to introduce our facilitators for today. We have two wonderful people joining us today. Abby Quinn is the Customer Success Manager at Microsoft, and she'll be facilitating our training today. Abby exclusively focuses on Teams in the government space and how to help end users adopt all of the features of Teams. Also with us today is Rob Wildeman. Rob is a technology strategist, which is Microsoft's fancy way of saying that he can help us understand some of the more technical questions that might come up. Rob is also going to be monitoring the chat today and helping to respond to all the questions. Awesome. Next slide, please.
Yeah, you got it.
Before we get started, I just wanted to mention that this training that we're providing this week and next week is basically capping off a long journey of VBA transitioning from Skype over to Teams. You may recall earlier in the year, there were several Teams training courses put in the TMS. I know a lot of you have taken advantage of those. VBA as a whole has over 36,000 TMS completions for Teams training, so that's great to see. A lot of you took advantage of that. There were also several brown bag sessions, OIT put on webinars, and a lot of you at the regional offices, training managers, change management agents, did a lot to help your offices transition over to Teams. So a lot has been done, a lot of training has taken place, and this training here provided by Microsoft, we hope will be sort of the capstone to provide any kind of final training and questions that you have so that you are completely prepared to use Teams in your everyday work. We are going to be looking at the full schedule of webinars a little bit later in the program, but for now, I'd like to turn it over to Abby to get us started.
Great. Thank you, Rob Evans. I am very fortunate today to be joined by two Robs, so I've decided that's going to be something I say frequently. So Robs, let's get started. Hi guys, my name is Abby Quinn. I've been a customer success manager at Microsoft for a little over 2 years now, and I've been working exclusively with Microsoft Teams for that entire duration. Like Rob said in the beginning, exclusively for government. And just to give a little bit of expectation setting for today's session, I have my camera on now because I haven't been in front of customers about 8 months, so I wanted to show off and say hello and good morning. And I, woke up earlier and didn't just put sweatpants on today. So welcome to the world of COVID and working from home. I am currently at WeWork right now, and the light turns off every like 5 minutes. So I'm going to turn my camera off here in a couple seconds, and so you'll just be seeing the presentation. But just so you know, some things to expect today. This is what we call a Teams live event, and that essentially means that right now I can see how many attendees we have, but unfortunately we do not have the ability to come off of mute today. That actually affords me the ability to kind of keep pace of the presentation, make sure we're on time, and kind of answer questions that are relevant and leave the questions that might be one-off or personal to a specific environment or to a specific member of VA. We leave those questions, they might be privately answered. If you do pose a question in the chat, that will look like this. One second. This little box up here is where you can actually ask your questions, and Rob Wildman will be there to either privately respond to you, or during one of my section pauses, he will bring up a question that might pertain to the larger audience as a whole. But we'll try to keep today on track as best as we can. But I hope that we can get some engagement out of everybody. If I ask a question, please feel free to provide that feedback in the question and answer portion of your control panel. I hope that we're all having good audio. There is about a 20-second delay from what I'm saying to what you're hearing. And I love to just kind of caveat everything with, I'm not a radio host, so bear with me. I might have to take a breather, and I've got Rob Wildman to support me on the back end here. So today we're going to be talking about Teams and channels specifically. But before we really get into that, I do want to spend a little time today touching on just kind of why Teams is a thing, why we needed to create it, why we are seeing such a surge in collaboration tools as a whole in the workplace. Several years ago, you might have said, well, what's wrong with email and Skype? We have the ability to email important formal communication, and we have Skype that offers us the ability to do private chat. Well, we found that more people, more often than not, were spending hours upon hours in Outlook, filtering through their inbox. And a lot of the time, we had some customer feedbacks that would report saying we get into the office at 9, and by the time we look up from our computers after filtering through our inbox, it's already lunchtime. And determining what emails are important to your job is not part of your job description. So Microsoft took to engineering, product group, focus groups to try to come up with a competitive collaboration space that also integrated everything that Microsoft has to offer. So that is how Teams became a thing. I apologize for the redundancy. I'm going to say Teams, channels, Microsoft, probably a lot. But I'm actually going to turn my camera off now so that if the light turns off, you guys won't know. But anyways, some of the pieces that also contributed to Teams being such a big effort for Microsoft, and why we put so much time and resources into this, is for the first time in history, we have 5 generations working together. We have some generations that are exclusively used to working in email and constructing very formal responses to anything from organization-wide memos to one-on-one conversations, all via email. Well, now we have new generations entering the workforce that are almost exclusively comfortable communicating in emoticons and emojis and faces and stickers and memes and GIFs. And we found that, our enterprise businesses were seeing a surge of gaps in communication, where you have young people coming into the workforce, not sure what's going on when it comes to people's tone or their messaging, not knowing how to respond formally, whether that's needed or not. And Teams really came in to play and incorporate some aspects of social media while also maintaining the integrity of a formal workspace where you can get productive work done. We also know that for the first time ever, we're having more virtual teams than ever, not just due to COVID and working from home, but because a lot of teams are virtual and spanning across the entire United States. As a nationwide organization, I'm sure that you've felt the pain points and the strengths that this can bring on. But Teams provides a one-stop shop portal for collaborating with your team, whether that means you're co-authoring a document at the same time and those changes are being saved in real time via OneDrive, or if you just need to do quick clarifying questions. Teams and Channels offers you the ability to have maximum exposure to posts and announcements. It gives you the ability to have accountability via rich messaging and reactions to messages. It really is a great place to be if you're trying to get your work done throughout the day. I know that I sound biased. I've really only been in the workforce for the past 2.5 years, and I've used Teams ever since I started. So I can't say that I know exactly what it's like to work exclusively in Outlook, but I know that it's something that we want to combat and that we want to try to get people out of that thinking that you have to be in a formalized email. So I do kind of use that as a rule of thumb. Think of Teams as you're rolling out your Teams adoption as a way to informally communicate, to send quick messages, to answer quick questions. The Teams and channel aspect of it is kind of where that Outlook thinking comes in. If you want something to be widely visible, use a team, use a channel to post it. And we'll be going over some of those aspects today. So just wanted to briefly touch on kind of why Teams is kind of a big deal right now. And I hope that clarifies maybe any questions that you had, why we are not going to be using Skype anymore and why VA has chosen to use Microsoft Teams. I'm going to take a brief pause there and ask Rob Wildeman, do we have any questions before we keep going?
Hey, Abby, nothing so far, but I'm sure I could come up with something if you need a second.
Oh, no, I'm good. I'm trying to do this thing where I talk slower, so I actually am not as parched as I usually am after my introduction.
No, we are good over here.
And if I am talking too fast, or if you would like to go over something, that's awesome feedback to see in the Q&A. I have about 55 minutes of content roughly today, and we'll use the rest of that time to offer some space for Q&A. But it would help me to know right off the bat kind of what activities you're doing in your teams. And if you feel so inclined to put some of those responses into the Q&A, I'd love to hear those responses from Rob. But just to kind of go over what we're doing today, we're going to talk about when to make a team versus a group chat or a one-on-one chat, the components of owning a team versus being a member. We're going to go over how to explain channels and how you should see channels and what they should mean for you. And then also how to become a change agent when it comes to using channels as opposed to using email or group chats, how to become that champion of channels that will actually help your organization, your peer group, and the people that you work with to really maximize the effects that Teams can have and the impact that it can have on your work group. So I'm going to take a minute. I would just love it if you guys could answer this question in the Q&A. Love to see some engagement, participation as best we can in this live event, and also just get some information on how you're using it. Are you using it to post announcements? Are you basically using channels as kind of like an email source? Do you put everything on there? Or are you barely using Teams and channels? How many teams are you a part of? Would love to get some feedback so that I can better tailor this experience before we jump into our demonstration. And now I'll just wait that 20 seconds.
Got some people quick on chat, which I absolutely love. So we have someone saying creating specific teams, sharing documents for working. So it sounds like a lot of document collaboration mainly. Rob Evans has chimed in saying that he's on about 5 teams. Some are
Awesome.
coworkers, others are project specific. So it looks like the full gambit that Rob's using, which is great to see.
Okay, and we've also got some people only using chat. That's understandable, very common.
Yep, most people, again, using only chat, but there are a couple folks I'm getting here now that are doing the full gambit. It looks like we really do have, everything from just using it as a Skype replacement, which is totally fine. That's how I started with it too.
Sure.
To other people who are really using it to manage projects, manage team huddles, deadlines, and some awesome stuff like that. So a lot to go off of, I think, Abby.
Yeah, this is great. And it's also really good to see that you're not a member of a ton of teams. The numbers I'm seeing in this are mostly between 1 and 5 teams, which is awesome. One of the things that we frequently see, especially with federal customers, as they begin to roll out teams, they experience what I call Teams chaos. And that's where every single person you know and all of your peers see this as an opportunity to create a team that you might not need. And that's going to bring me into my first topic today is when to make a team, when is it important, and when might the features and capabilities of a group chat or chat be just enough so that you're not bombarded with this idea that you need to be active in 90 teams. Rob, I know that at Microsoft, we definitely experience this Teams chaos situation whenever we have a new project in mind or at the beginning of a new fiscal year. Everyone gets a new leadership role, and all of a sudden I'm involved with 10 new teams in a week, and that can be very overwhelming. So I want to start today with just talking about the significance of a team, why you would want to be on a team versus versus a group chat, and kind of where to start. But I want to make sure that we break the myth that a team is like a distribution list. In its very, very, very general sense of the word, a team is similar to a distribution list, but really what we want to say a team is for is a team is where you get work done. Whether that means that is your entire group that you work with in department, that's fine, but really, in my opinion and in my experience with our customers, one of the things that makes a team is that's who you actually work with every day. So for example, I'm in an organization of probably 700 people. I don't work with all 700. I work with about 16 people every day. So we made a team, and that team is effective because it's actually where we get work done. So with that, I'm going to get out of this presentation. Bear with me while I switch over to my demo environment here. It always makes it difficult. And slideshow, there we go. Okay, and just a little background on what I'm doing right now. I'm switching from PowerPoint to the browser. And so this Teams demonstration you're about to see is in a browser environment. So it's going to be a little different than what you're used to seeing on your application itself. There's a few features that aren't available, but for the most part, this browser experience is a representation of what you should be able to do in your environment right now. So as I'm moving through this demonstration, please feel free to move along with me, click the buttons that I'm clicking on. You might not be able to do everything to fruition the way that I am, but getting a sense of what I'm doing might not hurt. And as you can see, also, there's not a ton of content in this situation because this is a demo environment, and right now my only buddy in here is our good old Rob Wildeman, who I've instigated a chat with, but we're going to spend some time here in the Teams section today. So as you can see, I'm a member of 2 teams, and I kind of think that the way I want to play today is pretending like I've been tasked with being the lead of the team's rollout at my organization. So I do have a VA logo for my organization, but I'm also gonna pretend like we're on this whole company called Contoso. That is Microsoft's example company. And unfortunately, my name in this demonstration is Mod, which is like the administrator button. So you can see that's my name, Mod Administrator. But as you guys know, I'm actually Abby. So here's Rob, he just said good morning. I was told that fundamentals of Teams is pretty ingrained in everybody, and I don't need to go over any mechanisms in the chat feature, but should you have any questions, feel free to throw those in the chat. Rob, cut me off if there's anything that anyone would like to go over really quick in chat itself, but for the most part today I will be focusing on Teams and channel management. So for our scenario, I've been in charge of, I've been tasked with creating the team's rollout plan. So I need to create communications, I need to make flyers and send out emails in regards to our team's rollout for our organization. So I went ahead and made a team, and I'll tell you why I made a team instead of doing a group chat. The general rule of thumb that I think makes the most sense for the organizations that we work with, if you're going to be working on something for longer than 60 days, if you've been tasked with a project that is going to take 2 months at minimum to complete, I think that is criteria to make a team. That 60-day mark is kind of indicative of you're going to be using a lot of files. You might need to have some quick recall and search functions that are going to be relevant. And if it's going to last 2 months, it's probably going to last longer than that. So anything longer than 60 days, I would recommend going ahead and creating a team. Anything more than 15 people, if you're going to lead an effort that's more than 15 people, if you're going to be working with closer to 50 or 30 people even, when you have that many people that are going to be involved in a team itself, I suggest creating a team over a group chat. I think that whenever you make a group chat or a party chat, as I like to say, anytime you have more than 15 people in a group chat, I think things get lost pretty easily. And when you have the capability that a team can offer as opposed to a group chat, this is where that can get really helpful. So more than 60 days, more than 15 people, and also if you have a lot of deliverables. So if there are a lot of files attached to your project or your end game, whatever outcome you're looking for, if there is going to be an Excel spreadsheet that gets created into a Power BI visual that needs to be presented on in a PowerPoint, but you also need a working document, all of those capabilities are going to be maximized in a team environment as opposed to chat. So I recommend those 3 criteria for whenever you want to do it, make a team or not. But again, I do recommend asking yourself, if you know that you've been assigned to a project and it's going to last a week, I don't think you need to take up the team space. I think that it's just better suited for a chat as opposed to making it an entire team. You don't need as many features whenever you have such a quick turnaround project. That being said, for our team's rollout, we're going to go ahead and this is going to be a 3-month process. And we're going to be working with about 10 people, but there are going to be a lot of deliverables. So a lot of files need to be shared. So to make this team, I went ahead and went down here. I call this my Teams panel. Anytime you click on an activity icon here in your Teams, your purple screen, this is what I call whatever panel. So you've got your chat panel, your Teams panel, and this is something that can quite often become overwhelming. If you were a member of several different teams, this can seem a little chaotic. And as we generate more teams throughout the next 2 weeks, I will help you guys understand how to keep this organized. So I've been tasked with the Teams rollout. So I went ahead last night and I made a Teams rollout team. I did that by clicking this join or create a team link here. And it takes me to a screen that actually has all the public teams that are available in my organization. If you're doing this along with me, you should be able to click that join or create a team button and you'll notice there are teams that you can join. So there are 3 different types of teams. There is public, private, or org-wide. I just selected create a team and I'm going to build my team from scratch. And these are those 3 teams I just mentioned. Org-wide, self-explanatory, everyone becomes a member automatically. Don't recommend this unless you have like pretty intense permission at the VA. Public would mean that anyone can join. They don't have to request access. If they click join, they become members. And then private, of course, just means that people would need permission. They would have to request access to become members of that team. So for this, for Teams rollout, I made a public team and then I named it. I don't usually do a description, but you absolutely can. And we'll just say test because I'm not actually going to make this. And then I would add my members. So I'll show what that looks like once it's created. It looked like this. Automatically, you're given a general channel. And that's just by default. You can't change it. It's kind of like the lobby of an office building. You're always going to have it. So this created my Teams rollout. And that's what I named my team. And then I added my members. But if I needed to add more members, I would go down here to manage team. There are several ways to do this, but so this is a good point or a good place to kind of say I am an owner of this team because I created it. And a good rule of thumb is to always have more than one owner because we don't know what's going to happen. People could leave the organization, they could get rapidly switched to another project and no longer be a part of that team. So it's always good to have more than 2 members. But I did not do that yet. So I'm going to show how if you haven't done that, but you have created a team, you can do that. To get to this screen, I went from this ellipses to manage team, and it by default brought me to this members tab. Anytime I'm referring to a tab, I'm referring to these little sections of the top of the screen. You will see tabs not only here, but you'll see them in chat and in channels. I'll touch briefly on tabs a little bit later, and we can go through that. But anyways, to upgrade a member to an owner, I would select this drop-down menu. And let's say I want to make Rob also an owner. So I can actually make him an owner like this. I just go over here to member where this little drop down arrow is, and I select owner, and he's automatically been air quotes, promoted to an owner, which basically just means he has the ability to add other members, and he can kick other members out should he need to. As a member, you can always leave the team voluntarily should you no longer be on that project or what have you. And as an owner, he is also able to delineate who can reply on certain posts. So he's able to say only owners can reply or everyone can reply. And again, I'll show that a bit later. Now, something just appeared in my GCC environment that I have not seen before. So I'm curious if anybody is doing this at home. Does this button tags appear for you? Because this may have just released in GCC, and I'm curious if it's in your environment, because if it is, we have a whole other section of this talk. I know it'll take a second to get some feedback, but I am very curious because this is another great way to delineate different groups within your teams. So anxious to see if this button tags appears. So I'll wait for some feedback there. Rob, how are we doing on questions?
Got some great ones, Abby. I've been doing my best to publish these so everyone can see. We are getting some great questions in chat. If anyone needs clarification or has additional questions, please, put it in the Q&A. I'm more than happy to respond.
Okay, sounds good. Any feedback yet on the tags button?
Hey, Abby, this is Rob Evans. I did not see it on the first team I clicked on. I'll look at a few more, so
okay.
I'm not sure if the tags is there for us yet.
Okay, yeah, Rob, let me know. Thanks.
Sure.
Thanks, Robs. Okay. I'm gonna have too much fun with that. Okay, so let's keep moving. And I'm trying to decide what metaphor I want to use for channels today. So let's, we've been tasked with our assignment. We're a part of Team's rollout team, and now we need to make some channels. I like to say that channels are where the work gets done. The team is like, once you're in the team, it's like your key into the office space, and the general channel is your lobby, which can also kind of act like a directory. I always use sitcom references, so I always say that if you were a member of the Friends cast, you would only do certain things in Monica and Rachel's apartment, like clean. Or if you're at Joey and Chandler's apartment, you're gonna watch sports. If you go to the coffee shop, that's where you're gonna order coffee and make fun of Rachel. Like, there are things that happen in the rooms of the set that aren't gonna take place everywhere. That is what I think people need to see as teams, almost like subdividers of the work you're trying to get done. So as I said before, part of our rollout plan is going to be some end user flyers and some awareness campaign materials. So in order to create a new channel for either one of those topics, I'm going to again select this ellipses, and I'm going to go down here to manage team. There are several ways to do this, but this is how it's just easy to explain. I would go to channels, and over here you can see I have a purple button that says add channel. So this is where I'm going to say end user emails. This is going to be where the team who's focused on end user communication, our comms team, is going to collaborate and work together. This is where they're going to source their information, store their content, record their questions, their brainstorms, their thoughts. This is even where they might have meetings scheduled if they're going to have reoccurring meetings. So think of that kind of those activities as what can take place in a channel itself. If you want a description, you can do a description there. I'm going to keep this one standard, and a standard channel means that it's accessible to everyone on that team. So everyone who's been given that key into the office, who's been made a member of the team, is going to have access to all of the material in this channel. I will show what it looks like to have a private channel a little bit later, but this material is not sensitive. This is where everyone from the team can also access the material. So I will add this here. And it's going to put it right underneath, and use your emails channel. So I've got two channels now. General, again, everyone has access, everyone can see, and user emails. Again, everyone has access, everyone can see what's in this, but I would say that only the people tasked with this job are going to play in here. This is where they're going to work every day. I'm going to add one more channel, and another way that I could add a channel is hitting that ellipses, selecting add channel just straight from the box there, and we're going to add in, what did I say was my other example? Oh, what was it? We'll do newsletter team. So that's the team that's going to be sending out comms about things on a weekly basis. So let's add weekly. And we're going to again make this standard, which again means that everyone who is on the team itself can see the files, the posts, the announcements, the members of this channel. They can like, they can react to the messages. There is no lock or key. There's no gate around this channel whatsoever. And it's going to be added right there underneath end user emails. I'm going to go back up to my ellipses and we're going to make one more channel. I'm going to add a channel that is going to be private. So we're going to do LT, leadership team, final countdown. So these are the members of the team who are responsible for that countdown to roll out. So they are going to have different sort of sensitive issues they're talking about. They might need to talk about something that can take place before the rollout can move forward. Some private conversations are going to happen here. There's one more component that I do need to add whenever I'm adding a private channel, and that is adding actual members to the team. So of course, I'm going to have Rob be a member of the team, and let's have Greg be a member of this leadership team. We're going to add both of these gentlemen here. And they're both members of that private channel. And as you can see, the only difference here is there's this little master lock key here, or little icon, and that just is indicating to us that this is a private channel. Members of the team who are not a part of that private channel will not see this channel at all. I'll repeat that. If you are not a member of the private channel, you won't see it. So there's no issues of, well, what was said in this channel? If they're not part of that group that needs to be privy to that knowledge, they will not even be notified that this exists. So it's a great kind of secret lockdown gated channel if you have any sensitive information, especially, again, examples that are commonly used as leadership team, or if there's a decision team that makes decisions on final plans before they are released. This is a great opportunity. Also, I've seen this before with like new hires and new people on onboarding. Sometimes it's nice to offer a lockdown space where people who are brand new can ask questions and maybe not feel like everyone on their team can see those questions. I know we always hope that everyone will be like completely confident with their silly questions, but when you get to month 6 and you have a question about how to enter the building, it's embarrassing to put that up on a public channel. So just a few ideas for why you might need a private channel. Did we have any questions on private or public channels specifically, Rob, that I can answer or perhaps redo?
None at the moment.
Okay, awesome. You guys are barely giving me a chance to take a sip of my coffee. Rob, how many private channels are you in?
I would say probably 3 or 4 across the 7 teams I'm active in.
Yeah, I'm not in that many, so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Okay. And I kind of want to follow up a little bit on when I think it's smart to make a channel. Again, kind of on the same note as Teams chaos, I think that there can be channel chaos. And I would kind of use the same 3 rules of criteria that have to do with the length, the amount of members that are going to be a part of that channel, and how many deliverables or material or files are going to need to be shared within that channel. One of the things that I really like is making channels based off of working groups. So for example, in Microsoft, we have a modern workplace group, but we also have a team specific group within my department. So there's modern workplace as the big umbrella and teams as a smaller umbrella. And that channel, that teams channel, only has about 15 or 16 of us. And that is an awesome place for us to get team specific questions answered, to have team specific brainstorms. And it's that kind of stuff that I think a channel really shows its maximum effectiveness is whenever you have a smaller group of people working on the same consistent project or the same consistent product or the same consistent group of people is their customer. Rob Wildeman and I both have our members of teams that are VA specific, but then we also have channels that are weekly meeting specific. So you can make it as specific as you'd like. I just want to emphasize that sometimes having too many channels, if you ever have a channel with just 2 people, it might not be the most effective channel. That might be better for just a private chat. So just think of that as you're making your channels. If you have any kind of work group that is definitely consistent throughout the year, having a channel for them to go to is an awesome idea. Having that kind of consistency is really great. In case you haven't noticed, Teams is a very consistent and persistent platform. So it keeps everything, it retains it all, and that creates awesome ability for recall and quick search functions that make finding things in Teams a lot more simplistic. One of the pieces of feedback we got from customers about Skype was that messages are gone, or messages, they disappear after a certain amount of hours. And with Teams, you get that recall and you don't have to spend as much time hunting down answers. So that's just some of the feedback that created Teams and made it the way that it is.
Hey, Abby, this is Rob Evans.
Hey there, Rob Evans.
Can we talk a little bit more about the persistence of the information there?
Sure.
Because I think that's an important point to let everyone know about, is that anything that you put in a chat is basically permanent. It is available for discovery if anything were to happen. So I think that's important. That may have been different in Skype, but everything in Teams is basically going to be there forever. So it is okay to put sensitive, PII information. It's protected in that sense. So you can do that. But you just want to be conscious of what you're chatting because it's going to live permanently.
Exactly. And that is something, that's an adjustment, that's a technological change and kind of a behavior change that some people need a little bit of time to wrap their heads around. One thing I will say, there is a way to get rid of chat from your chat panel. So, if you're used to being able to get rid of conversations that you're not going to actively participate in, all you have to do is hover over that conversation, do the ellipses, and click hide. And that'll make that chat go away until someone else instigates a conversation. However, it does not disappear completely. Those chats are still stored and they are discoverable. So be mindful of your organization's policy in regards to sensitive information. So just a place where you do need to educate yourself. On that same note, Teams information and Teams threads will remain persistent and visible for, it depends on your company's retention policy, but I believe, at least in the Teams, what you can view, it's at least 90 days. So Rob Wilderman, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's between 90 days. But you will be able to search anything from a lot later. Go ahead, Rob.
So this is Rob Evans again. There was a question about deleting old chats. So would you show how to hide a chat?
Yep.
So even though it's not deletable, you can clean up that panel by hiding them.
Yep.
And I believe that's available, for everyone. So that could be a way to at least organize it a little bit, or if something has ended and you're not really using it anymore, you could hide it so you don't have to scroll through it and constantly view it.
Yep, exactly. Another way to do that is, let's say that you're a part of a group chat and you don't necessarily want to be notified about all of the chats all the time, but you still want to have visibility to it. You can also mute that chat. So if I didn't want to get a notification every time Rob messaged me, I could mute this and I would still see it in my panel. So I could go see what they're talking about, but I don't have to get the notifications. I know that some feedback we get is the Teams notifications can be a lot. So this is a way to kind of customize those notifications and kind of have that work within what you're comfortable with. But hide is this one right here.
Great. One last comment about the mute. One good application that I've found is if you are invited to a meeting that you're not able to attend, while that meeting is going on, there's a lot of chatter that goes on and you're getting constant notifications even though you're not in the meeting because you're not able to attend. So that might be an opportunity to mute where so you don't have to see those notifications from the meeting that you're not in.
Exactly. That's a great best practice as well, definitely. Whenever you have, let's say you've got 4 meetings that you need to be at the same time, you're toggling between those 4, or you really need to be in one, you can still pay attention to the chat. I will often tell a colleague I can't make it to a meeting, and sometimes they will even add some notes in the chat to help those that can't attend follow along. So great addition there, Rob. I love that you're owning that champion role that you're playing over there. Okay, but let's get back to talking about teams and channels. And basically, one of the things that is difficult for organizations to get their heads around, and especially for individuals, one of the things even internal to Microsoft that we got in the habit of doing was we would start talking in group chats because we would make them with our peer groups, you know, those people that you work with every single day. And we would put things into chat. The main difference with group chat and a channel. Group chat is each individual sends a message, and it is a, you know, there's a message and you can either react to it with a thumbs up, a heart, smiley face, what have you. But whenever you respond to that message, you know, you're sending a separate text. So there's no thread communication. There's no threaded messaging. So if you want to ask a question and then someone responds to that question and then someone else comes around and asks another question and then another question, all of a sudden your question that you asked is gone from the viewpoint of the screen because everyone else had a thought or a question about it themselves. Channels are where threaded communication can take place, and a lot of this functionality was taken into consideration because of the way that discussion boards are created and how students learn when they do discussion boards with their professors. They create a question and then, you know, they get a certain amount of points for commenting on the question or having a dialogue about that question. And that threaded communication is also pulled from social media, where you might post a picture or a comment on something, and then those people that, you know, we've all gotten into the rabbit hole of reading comments on Facebook. So that was taken in from those aspects, but also the reply all aspect on Outlook. So when you click reply all to an email thread, you're essentially creating a threaded conversation, except it's bogged down with signatures and people's phone numbers. And that reply all can also be very scary for new hires because you don't know exactly who you're replying all to. So the idea of creating announcements and posts in channels is really embedded in the way that we communicate online right now, whether that is socially or more formally in email. Creating a channel is a great way to have threaded communication all in one place. It's a repository of questions, brainstorms, announcements, relevant information for your organization, and also a great place to give praise. So think of channels as kind of like a one-stop shop for everything that you need to get your work done, but also a place where it's organized effectively. So just to kind of articulate that and illustrate it, I'm going to start a new post. And it's down here. As you can see, again, this is a demonstration environment, so there's not a ton of content yet, but over the next 2 weeks, that's what we'll be doing. We'll be filling this VA demo environment with content. That hopefully you all enjoy and is relevant. So I'm going to make this new conversation. And for those of you that don't know, the little A here with this paintbrush actually gives you the option to format what you're saying and make it more of a paragraph. You can add a heading. And this is where you do get a few customization options when it comes to the actual post itself. I'm going to just do something very generic and do a welcome announcement. This is going to be the team's rollout team and, you know, yada, yada. These are our objectives. I'm not going to type all that. We're just going to pretend. But this is where you can say, you know, welcome to the, this is where you can add a banner or a logo or change the color. I'm obsessed with this magenta right now. And this is also where, as an owner of the team, I can delineate if I want everyone to reply to this thread or only me and other owners can reply to this thread. This is important to note whenever you, sometimes if you have like an employee spotlight, or if you have an award or an announcement to say to the rest of the group, I usually would suggest putting only moderators can reply to this, just in case anyone were to have something that's not super positive to say. I hope they wouldn't, but just to kind of give yourself an extra layer of security around that post, throw down, you know, only moderators can reply. But also having everyone be able to reply, that's whenever you would pose a question, or you have maybe a brainstorming session that you need to have, you have some crowdsourcing that you need to do. Sorry, I keep having to turn this light on. So this is where you can change it up. I'm going to say that everybody can reply, and I'm going to announce that we are going to schedule a meeting within this channel that will recur weekly so that we can, as a team, sync together and determine what needs to be accomplished this week. And this is where if I needed to mention someone in particular, I could use that @ sign and call them out. Tune in this afternoon because we will be going over specifically smart meetings and how to best how to have the most impacting meetings from Microsoft Teams. This is just an example of something that you could put into a general session. So I am going to just, bold this, and we're going to put a fake agenda here. This is where you can have some bullets. So all the formatting that you're used to, the professionalism that you're used to, all of that can happen here. And I think that's kind of a myth about Teams, is there's just not as much functionality. I think there's so much functionality in Teams. You can do everything you want to. You can make it look great. Internally, we use the banner as an opportunity to add a lot of cool pictures. I know that since work from home started in March, we have a water cooler channel. And that's basically where I live to look at people's dog pictures or cute baby pictures. There's like a section where they ask, what were your coworkers doing today? So, have as much fun with this as you feel is appropriate. But Teams also, I think, is just created for people to communicate and to connect, which I know everyone is struggling with right now. So this is a great opportunity to give people praise, give people exposure, and also have some fun within your workday. So I'm going to send this. And say, this is where people can comment and say, looking forward to it, or, oh my gosh, I can't believe I have another project to do, but hopefully they don't say that. Oh, okay, so I just got a notification that Mr. Wildeman reacted to my message. We call this rich messaging. So if you ever hear me referring to rich messaging, it's this concept of reacting without having to reply, but he did both. So thank you, Rob. But feedback that we got was, people would spend 15 minutes trying to construct a message that was formal in response to basically just say, I got it, man. And that thumbs up can kind of accomplish that. So just to keep going with this example, I've just posted that we're going to have a weekly meeting. And the way that I would schedule that meeting and how to best schedule a meeting within a channel is to go to your calendar icon. Well, I'm just a very free as a bird here, and I'm going to click new meeting, and I'm going to say Teams rollout weekly meeting. This is where I might add required attendees, but it might even be more effective for me to go ahead and add a channel. So we're going to do the general. Why won't it happen? What's it called? The rollout team. Why this happens to me whenever I am trying to do this on a recorded video. Rob, do you know what's happening?
Which part? It looks like we're making an awesome meeting.
It won't let me it won't populate the channel. That's okay. I'll figure it out. Anyways, you should be able to add a channel. For those of you doing this at home, it should pre-populate with some names. If you type in any letter, it should show up with whatever team or channel you're trying to, you can find it within there. But I am having an issue, so I'm just going to add Rob to this meeting and our friend Greg, who is a robot.
Happens to demo tenants sometimes, since this is a new baby team.
Exactly. So I'm thinking that, but if you just type into this add channel button, you should be able to schedule the actual meeting to a channel, and it would post directly to the channel that you select. So we're just going to send this off and hope that no one at home is too mad that that did not happen. But okay, so, and as you can see right before then, that was bolded, which indicates to me that there is something in that channel I have not read. So Rob, can you go and type something, make a short example post in the final countdown meeting so that our channel, so that I can show everyone what it looks like when it's bolded?
Absolutely.
There it is. So that just tells me, hey, there's something in there I have not seen.
Hey, Abby, this is Rob again.
Yep. Hey, Rob.
Sorry to keep jumping in, but
No.
I think that might answer a question that I saw go through the chat earlier. When a supervisor is sending out a message that they want their whole team to see, even though they may not get a notification, that bolding indicates that there's something there they haven't read yet. So,
yes.
So sharing that tip with people that if one of those channel titles is bold, indicates there's something there I haven't seen. That's sort of an additional way to, kind of a flag to let you know to look there.
There's, in addition to that, if your supervisor wants to send a post out to the whole team, he or she can actually click, within it, they can create a new conversation, or if they want to make sure that everyone sees this post, this team's rollout post, they can @mention the teams as a whole. So they can literally @mention teams rollout, and then that not only bolds the channel itself, but it also sends a little activity bell notification signal.
Great, so you don't have to every person, you can just the channel.
Correct.
Awesome.
So Rob, did you just see a notification? Rob Wildeman, did you just see a notification pop up?
I sure did.
Yep. So that's a great way to call out, and if you did have individuals that you needed to specifically see this post, you would be able to use that @mention function again. And
hey, Abby, just to be super clear, I got a notification, a great little pop-up on the bottom right of my screen, what us tech folks like to call a toast notification. There was, however, no sound with it. So the best way to get that ping noise is to somebody or fiddle with your notification settings, which I'm sure Abby's going to go over at length later.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I can talk notifications all the time, but did we have any other overarching questions that maybe needed to be addressed? Okay. No?
I do have a couple in here, Abby, that I'm still working through, but okay. Why don't you keep going unless you need a minute to get a sip, and I can read them out loud.
Nope, you're good. I will keep going and we will come back to questions. I'm probably going to be good with content in about 5 or 10 minutes, and then we can open the floor for some general questions for sure. So one of the things I touched on a little bit earlier was trying to get people out of chat and into the team, into the channel. So as you can see, Rob and I can exchange messages back and forth together. If we were in a chat with more than 2 or 3 other people, that is whenever you start to get that issue of someone asks a question, someone answers the question or asks a follow-up, and then all of a sudden you're kind of draining along trying to figure out what the original question was, and it's hard to keep up. So as you can see in our channel, whenever we posted to general, this creates a thread. So this is where Rob responded, I responded again, someone else responds. This is where you have that threaded communication, which is essential to whenever you actually want to follow through with something, or if you're really looking for some concrete answers. One of the things that can happen though is, let's say that someone in end user emails poses a question. Not the best at coming up with examples. I tried to really have them mapped out today, but this is just what's coming out of my hands right now. So this is a question someone's just posed in their channel. This is where someone else can reply, but let's say that the answer to this question isn't decided. So we have some sort of what's happening here. We need everyone's opinion, but some people are saying purple, green, and yellow color scheme. So maybe I need to just track this and keep it in my repository of questions, and I will follow this answer as it gets developed. I would come over here. So by hovering over the post itself, it presents me with these set of options, and I would go to the ellipses here, and I can select save this message, which will go into my saved messages. And that way I don't have to find this again. I can just go to my record of saved messages within the channel, and I'm able to follow that threaded conversation as it unfolds. So the way that I would access those saved messages is by clicking on my picture, my headshot, my icon, my initials, or whatever you have is up here. And I would go down here to my saved messages. And that's going to show up here eventually. Sometimes things don't happen as fast as I want them to. But again, I went up here to my picture. I came down here to this icon that says saved, and it takes me to the record of my saved inventory. Again, it's just not populating because I literally just did it, and my demo environment is mad at me. Let's try that again. So I hovered over the message, clicked the ellipses. Oh, okay, so it is saved. It's just not showing up, but that shouldn't happen to you when you do it. Also, just like in Outlook, whenever you accidentally read an email at 4:59 that you wish you hadn't and you need to save it for tomorrow, you can actually select to unread message posts on channels. So let's say I read this as I was walking out of the office, or better terms, walking to the refrigerator at 4:59. You can mark this as unread and it will keep it bolded in your channel. This is also where you would be able to edit the post that you've made, delete the post that you've made, and the other people in your channel will not see that you've made those edits. They will also not see that something has been deleted. So if you make a post in the wrong channel, that's okay. It would be able to be remedied through the ellipses. Another best practice rule of thumb, Abby Quinn tip and trick, bullets or those little ellipses. When in doubt, select the ... because more often than not, that's where your other options are going to show up. So if there's something you can't see or you don't remember where it was probably in the ellipses.
Abby, that's a really good mnemonic I think you just came up with there. You know, if you need to find something, it's behind the dot.
Yeah,
like
when in doubt, select the ...
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay, Rob, oh, my train of thought.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. You got this. What was I just about to say? Oh, I wanted to actually test something because I tried earlier. Y'all saw me try to post a meeting to a schedule or to a channel, and I'm going to see if it'll let me do it here. I thought I just saw it. Never mind. Oh, okay. See, you can do this. Schedule a meeting. There we go. Okay, everyone, pay attention to what I just did. So if you want to schedule a meeting to a channel, like I tried to show you earlier, a way to do that is make your post, select reply, and down here there's a schedule with a little plus sign. Select that button and it automatically brings you to a template where that meeting can be created. So we'll type this again, weekly meeting for Teams rollout team. And I don't need to add any required attendees because all of the people in that general channel for Teams rollout are going to get this posted to their channel. We'll do an agenda. We will make it scheduled for today at, sure, 11 to 11:30. Perfect. I'm going to go ahead and send this. And it just posted. So that's what you're going to see when you post a meeting to a channel promptly at 11 a.m. A little join button will occur right here, and that is where I can click join and it'll directly take me into a meeting that is taking place in the channel. I'm so glad I figured that out. For those of you that didn't see what I just did, I'll go over it one more time. So essentially to post a meeting to a channel, which is a super effective way to do your reoccurring weekly meetings or your daily stand-ups, whatever have you. This is a great option for super succinct meetings. And again, this afternoon we'll be going over smart meetings and how to maximize your time in those meetings. I will also be touching on this exact channel meeting in this afternoon session if you can make it. But I have my post here. I'm going to click reply. And there's this little schedule button with this plus sign, and I'm going to select that. It takes me directly to a template that has the channel that I was in already populated. So I hope that I went over that slowly enough because I got very excited that I figured out what I did wrong. And again, once the time occurs, there will be a little button that appears here saying join, and you just click into that and you're ready to rock and roll. So with that, I hope that that clarified a little bit about how to use Teams best, when to use Teams, when to make a team, and how to use channels. Each session this week and next week will go into a little bit further detail. I'm hoping that we will literally use this Teams rollout channel as our example and kind of like our extended metaphor for the duration of the week. And who knows, maybe next week I'll come up with something different, but never really can tell with me. This afternoon, we're going to touch on meetings themselves, how to make them the most effective. But the rest of this time, I would love to just open the floor for any questions. If you have anything specific for your peer groups, I'm here for that. If you have general questions or you would like me to repeat something, please let me know. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the Q&A myself, and I'll be here for another 30 minutes.
Hey, Abby, this is Rob.
Yep.
While people are typing their questions in, there are a couple in there that I thought I would mention.
Okay, great.
So if you save someone's message,
Yes.
Will they receive any kind of notification that you've saved their message?
No. There is no medication. There is no communication back to them.
Okay, so you could save their message and they won't know.
Correct.
So that's great. Okay. And there was another question about moving a conversation from one channel to another. Is it possible to move a conversation that started in channel A over to channel B?
I don't think that you can move it, but I do know that you can post to multiple channels, but let's just try it.
Yeah, so Abby, you cannot, once a conversation has been started, the only way to move that would be a classic copy and paste. Although you are correct, you absolutely can post a topic or announcement into one or more channels if it is relevant. But just know that if you're doing this across public and private channels, make sure you're posting the type of information that you want everybody to be able to see. And that's, I think, a theme that's going to be pretty consistent. Just like you wouldn't post something into a Skype chat to multiple people, we do have to keep an eye on what we're posting in our Teams chats, just to make sure only the right eyes can see it.
Right, and I'm just showing very quickly an example of what it looks like to post in multiple channels. So this is a feedback request that I'm going to post in all of the channels within the Teams rollout team. And it looks like this. So you would just get a chance to select channels here, and you can go ahead and put it into end user emails, leadership, and the weekly newsletter team. And then when you select post, you'll see that all of my channels, it's going to go to this one and to this one. But as far as moving content, if you've already posted it to a channel, you would need to copy and paste.
Okay, great. So the only way to do it is just to copy that whole conversation and post it in the other channel.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, there are definitely some more questions coming in.
Okay. And we do have a conclusion slide. So Rob Evans, you just let me know when you would like to interject that. But this is awesome interaction. So keep the questions coming.
Sure.
Oh, I was going to share one anecdote just about my internal team and how we kind of forced the effort, because one of the things we were noticing was we were oftentimes not posting in channels. We were doing a lot of activity in our group chats. So we started this with this hashtag that says should have been a channel post, or should have been in the channel, or hashtag posted in the channel. So anytime someone would ask a question that we deemed, broad enough to be fitting for the channel, we would call people out a little bit and then migrate those questions to the channel, which actually gave greater visibility. It showed increased collaboration, and overall it just kind of showed, especially to our leadership, that we were collaborating on a series of topics, a variety of topics. So if that might work for your organization, your work group, call people out and tell them to put those messages where they can be threaded and saved. So it's definitely a great idea to help with that behavior change.
Hey, Abby, so we actually, if you could maybe review what channels are used for in particular. We have two separate questions about what are channels used for.
Okay. Okay, sure. So channels are kind of like I like to say that, team, if you make a team, that is where you want to get work done, but channels are where the work actually happens. So channels consider them separate entities from one another, everything except that general channel. General channel is going to be, again, like I said, kind of the lobby of the office building. Everyone gets in there. That's where the directory is. It's where the common information is found. All up announcements, all hands meetings can go in that general channel. But then when you think about additional channels besides your default, those channels are going to be where work actually takes place. So this is where you're going to co-author documents together. You're going to share files within these channels. You're going to have conversations within these channels that should be threaded and should have a kind of a rhythm to them, if you will. This is where questions get answered. This is where feedback gets developed. This is the place where that happens, and it's by work group or by functionality. So you can choose to set up your channels however you want, whether that means that you're going to do the organization hierarchy and have leadership, marketing, finance, HR, more generic titles, but yeah, so that's a kind of the organizational functional aspect, or you can have your channels based on projects. That is where I recommend. That is in my experience where a lot of work gets done, is whenever you boil down the channel to the work groups that are actually getting a deliverable out there or making an impact. So as you can see here, for our Teams rollout, we've been given certain tasks, and parts of those tasks are end user emails. So that is where we are going to notify our end users of what is coming with Teams, what's happening with Teams, how to use Teams. And then we have a weekly newsletter team that has been tasked with coming up with weekly content that is team specific to help end users maximize the impact that Teams can have on their workday. So these are project oriented, and they're going to have different sets of deliverables. But one thing to remember is if you see a channel, you have access to what is in that channel. This locked channel indicates to me that this is private, and not everyone in the team has access to this private channel. Only the members of the private channel have access to the material in it. And if you are not one of those members, you will not see this channel underneath your options here. You will only see end user emails and weekly newsletter team as two channels. I like to also kind of, I'll reiterate the criteria I stated in the beginning here. Think about the time that that is needed for a certain project. If you have more than 60 days out before a project is due, I recommend creating a team, and I use that same logic around my channels. If you've got a long withstanding project that's going to take time over 60 days, make that a channel. Make that project a specific channel within your overarching team. If you have several members, I would suggest more than 15 people that are going to be collaborating on documents, sharing information with one another. Creating a channel is a really good idea. Also, if you're going to be using a lot of different material, if you have tons of files, tons of PowerPoints, tons of worksheets that you're using, this is a great opportunity to use channels, because you're going to have a lot of collateral that's going to be involved in that project, and it's all going to be housed within the specific space that is this channel. So I hope that helps alleviate some of the confusion that we definitely get with every organization we have in regards to teams and channels. A lot of people want to know, if you have a team, why do you need a channel? And the easy answer is team is huge umbrella term. Channel is where work actually happens.
Another way I've heard it, Abby, that people seem to really resonate with is a team is a folder. No one actually goes into a folder and changes anything. It's the files in the folder. If you have an empty folder, it's just a box. Whereas I have Word documents in that folder that I want to work on. Channels, those are my documents.
I think that I call it my trapper keeper example. So back in grade school and middle school, when you had those big binders that were like bigger than your entire face, and you'd bring them to school, but you had those subdividers. So you had math and science, but even within that you had quizzes, homework, tests, that kind of thing. So think of these channels as your subdividers within your whole day. But I also, don't want to say that there's any one way to make a successful team. It just depends on how your team works. So. And
I think, and Rob, I don't want to talk over you, but I think that's one really important thing is a question we get a lot in trainings like this is, well, how are we supposed to do it? What does Microsoft say you're supposed to? And there is no supposed to here. It really is, purposely flexible, and we purposely don't have specific recommendations, because what you in the VA needs is very different from, what the CDC needs or what DoD needs. So it is important to kind of get a feel for it, get a feel for how you and your work group work, and how we adapt to the needs of VA and your mission.
Right, and even, to take it a step further, Rob, you might, your work group might work extremely different than your colleagues' work group. So not even just organization-wide, but department-wide, peer group-wide, friends group-wide. Like you might see that you need 3 channels, whereas your colleague thinks you need 7 in their independent team. So there really isn't a quote-unquote best practice, but we can, listen to what your experiences are and provide as much expertise as possible. So these next 2 weeks is where that is going to be critical. If you have a scenario-based question, please feel free to shoot that our way. This is what we're here for. Rob Evans, you may now speak.
Thank you. So great discussion there, and I hope that clarified for everyone. There were some other questions in the chat related to meetings and Outlook. So maybe it's a two-part, if I could sort of combine a few together. One of the questions was about when these meetings are scheduled in a team or in a channel, how does it communicate back with Outlook? And then the other question was related to, you had put, say, a weekly meeting inside the channel, and there would be a join button. Well, is that going to reappear every week when it's time for the meeting, or how would I see that ongoing meeting in the future?
So communicating with Outlook, Rob Wildeman, I don't think that channel meetings communicate with Outlook, from my understanding.
I think they do, Abby,
Okay.
but I think what we'll have to, the difference here is doing it the way you tried to initially, which was, setting up a meeting via the calendar tab and scheduling it for later in the day, and then just deciding that that location was going to be in a channel versus doing it from the channel, which is what we call an ad hoc meeting. We're about to meet right now, and ad hoc meetings will not show up on Outlook. So if you schedule it for a time that is not right now, which is to say you don't even get the option to put in a date and time, you just click something like Meet Now, or in the channel, you press that button. That's not going to show up on Outlook. If you schedule it, even if you schedule it for 11:09 on 10:19, that's going to go on the calendar. Hopefully
so
that
think of your Outlook calendar and your Teams calendar as a mirror. I was wrong. That weekly meeting, it does occur in Outlook, so it's right here. It's just taking a minute for the whole calendar to load. But it also appears in your Teams calendar right here. Here it is. And this join button, as you can see, it did get created because we are past that 11 a.m. mark. So the join was created here, and it does, it will stay as a join button once that first initial meeting takes place, and it will always stay there. So you don't have to wait on it to join. I don't know why it's.
Hey, Rob Evans, I actually have a question I could really use your help with. So someone has asked in the chat here, how do we listen to a recording after a meeting has been recorded? To do that, you're going to be using a tool you may have seen in the VA. It's called Stream, and it's basically like a VA's personal YouTube channel that no one else can get to. But the specifics of how to get there, I'm going to have to divert to Rob Evans on. Rob, do you know how to navigate to your internal Stream?
Sure. So that's a great segue for one of our other webinars we're going to have later in the week about apps and integrating apps into using Teams. So I would definitely attend that if that's an interest of yours. My understanding is that if someone records the meeting, shortly after the meeting is over, a link to that meeting will appear in the chat. So, you can, depending on how long it takes for that recording to render and appear, but shortly after the meeting, a link will appear in the chat for that meeting with the recording. Now that link will only persist for about 7 days, I believe, and then it may go away.
Right.
So it would really be contingent upon the meeting organizer to probably forward that link on to individuals who needed it.
Yes.
I don't believe there's a central place where everyone can access it.
So there is only folks who were in the meeting in the first place will have access, and so that tool is called Stream. So I don't know what the VA Office 365 portal looks like, if you know what the URL homepage for that is, Rob, but that is where you would find it. And if not, we will make sure to have that answer, and we'll leave it as a little bit of a cliffhanger, so everyone comes to our discussion about that later this week.
I will, let's go ahead and, were there any other pertinent questions right this second, or should we go ahead and show those conclusion slides, Rob?
So I wanted to kind of scroll through the chat there to make sure we kind of hit on everything.
Sure.
A lot of great questions. I know it's difficult to cover everything all in one webinar. That's why we've sort of broken them out the way we have. I know there were some questions about documents and editing documents. I think we may cover that more fully in one of the other webinars. There's a question about who adds the channel, and is it the supervisor? I think this whole concept of teams and channels, in my mind, is going to require a little bit more definition and collaboration at the beginning of a project.
Right.
On what exactly are we doing and what are we going to need? And that structure could certainly evolve, but I think it does sort of force the question on defining what this project's about and what the deliverables are, how we're going to work together to help define what that structure is going to look like.
Exactly. And I mean, creating the channels and adding members, it might come from a supervisor, but it also may come from just the general sense of the team. There may be a small group within the team who are designated as team owners, and then those people are designated with the task of creating the channels based on what the team comes to terms with and sets expectations as. It really is highly customizable. The application is here for you to use as best as you know how and as best as you see fit. So I think that as you kind of dip your toe in the pool of teams, talk about creating channels. Do you want them to be project-based, or do you want them to be more organizational-based? Do you want there to be heavy lockdown? Do you want mostly private channels, or do you want all the material to be viewable by everyone on the team? These are great, brainstorming questions to start whenever you are rolling out project teams.
Great. So I think it's about time to wrap up here. Let's not put the slides up yet, but Abby and Rob, I know I took some really great notes. You talked about the criteria for setting up a team, public and private teams. I really liked how you can format those messages so they look a lot more professional. I thought that was a really good tip. And actually, I like the whole water cooler example.
Oh, yeah.
You could just have a water cooler channel so that if you want to share those cat pictures, or you want to sort of increase some employee engagement among your teams, especially in this environment.
Absolutely.
That would be a great suggestion to consider.
I'll just, since you made that a note, I'll leave with a little tutorial on how you would make that channel.
Okay, absolutely.
I would go to my team that I want that channel to be in. I would click the ellipses, select that Manage Team button we talked about earlier, go over here to my Channels tab, and I would select Add a Channel, and I would just type it Water Cooler Channel. Definitely want everyone to have access here. We're going to click Add. It's going to be added to our team. I keep getting up because of these lights. Water cooler, click New Conversation, and this is an awesome opportunity for us to say, we'll do an announcement. And we'll make add, who is your coworker today? To job today.
Yeah, so a supervisor could post messages there. There could be some freedom to communicate, because part of what we miss in working in an office is those just sort of those informal conversations where we get to catch up and just chit chat and ask how people's weekends were. So that might be something to consider.
And this is where that that GIF button comes into play. Obviously, I'm going to type in a puppy, because I wish I had a puppy as a coworker right now. I just have 4 full-grown dogs. Still cute, but no puppies.
Right. So we've got a few more minutes left, but I think unless there's additional questions, we can go ahead and wrap up for today. Can you put up the next slide, Abby? I believe we're going to take a brief look at the upcoming schedule. Obviously, you can speak to your training manager and get the schedule and the links to join the rest of the sessions if you don't already have it. If you're in central office, you should have an email from the Office of Talent Management with the schedule. But we've got a great lineup for you. Later today is Smart Meetings. On Wednesday, we're going to talk about app integration. Friday, teaching with teams, which has been a hot topic. I know I've fielded a lot of questions about. And then basically we're going to repeat the same topics next week, a little bit different times or days, just to give some variety in case you weren't able to attend this week.
And just
So-
to point out, Rob, there is going to be a special session on October 30th at 2 p.m., an open forum where I will not have any curated content. I will just be here, and that is an excellent opportunity to take these 2 weeks and start putting into practice what we're talking about, and then bring your scenario-based questions to me on Friday. Rob and myself will be here to answer those questions and to finalize everything that we've learned over these this 2 weeks of Teams.
Yeah, excellent. I think that'll be a great opportunity for people to ask their specific questions. So that's Friday the 30th, right?
Yep, Friday the 30th from 2 to 3:30.
Excellent. And that'll
Hey,
be the
Rob
last
Evans,
session.
will you be sending out a follow-up to this meeting? There are already some folks asking where they can find this recording who may have joined late.
So thanks for bringing that up, Rob. We are planning, or the meeting is being recorded, and my goal is to put it in TMS and make it available there. I don't know how quickly that's going to happen, but
Probably by the end of the day. We'll have both meetings from today sent over to you, Rob.
okay. So you can hopefully find them in TMS in the next day or so. So we'll do it that way. And speaking of TMS, you can get learning hours credit for attending today. So I would encourage everyone to self-certify in TMS. And you can see there in the bottom left is the TMS number for today's webinar. And as a kind of a special incentive, Microsoft has offered us some really cool Microsoft Teams tumblers. So if you are one of the first 50 people today to self-certify in TMS, you'll have the opportunity to receive one of those cool MS Teams tumblers. So I'd encourage you to self-certify. We'll leave that number up there on the screen, and maybe even put it in the chat so that you'll have it, and that way you'll get learning hours credit for attending today. I really appreciate everyone joining. We had a good attendance. I hope you can make it for some of the additional sessions this week or next week. If you have any questions or maybe didn't get your question answered, feel free to send me an email. I'll be happy to try and respond to those and or bring it up on another webinar so it can benefit everyone as well. Thanks again, Abby and Rob. Do either of you have any parting comments for us?
Oh, this is just the beginning. We'll be here all week.
That's right.
Teams is complicated till you start using it, and then especially when your team gets on board, it becomes much, much easier. I promise. I know this seems like Skype may have just been easier to stay there, but I have under 100 emails a day now, and I used to come into 500. Just stick with it for us with 2 weeks, folks. I promise we'll get you there.
That's right. And it looks like some last minute questions are coming in on the chat. So I'm going to ask Abby and Rob if they'd respond to those.
Of course.
And maybe we'll leave the meeting open here a couple more minutes to field some of those last questions. But if you got what you needed today, feel free to drop off. Let's put that TMS slide back up, please, so we can make sure everybody gets that TMS number.
Okay, 1 second.
4561077. I'll put that in the chat. Make sure you self-certify. First 50 get a tumbler.
And if for some reason you don't want the tumbler, feel free to forward that email to rob.wildeman@microsoft.com.
Yeah, so some last minute questions in the chat. If you guys wouldn't mind taking a quick glance there and.
Yeah, hey Rob, if there's a question showing up in the chat, it means I've already gotten to it and have published that answer. So.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah, and if you don't feel I answered it correctly, please feel free to send another message. I'm releasing all of these as they come through and as I'm getting a chance to answer them. So I will absolutely stick around for a little bit while we still have people on. If you want to communicate me via chat, happy to continue answering questions. But please know if you feel like, oh, we didn't cover something today, that's because we have another session on it coming up soon.
All right, sounds like Liz is hopeful she'll get a tumbler. Hope she's one of the first 50. Make sure you self-certify, get your learning hours credit. If you have questions, or if you need the schedule of the rest of the webinars, I'll go ahead and put my email in the chat.
And our session this afternoon at 1 is about smart meetings and teams. So I will be touching on all aspects meetings, what it's like before, after, and during the meeting, and the etiquette that we recommend as far as meetings go in teams. Etiquette, whatever. I mean, that was kind of a weird word, but
Best practices, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Things like make sure your pajama pants are on the bottom. They're just
Right.
basic COVID stuff.
You know, so Danita made a great suggestion. I may consider that. One of our employees in the Seattle regional office created a Learn MS Teams team that is available to everyone with a lot of great resources in a OneNote notebook. So yes, Danita, I may be able to post the recorded links there to continue to build that resource for everyone. So great suggestion, thank you. Again, Abby and Rob, thanks a lot for being here today. We're looking forward to the next 2 weeks. I'm looking forward to getting even more attendance. So I think that's going to wrap us up for today.
All right.
So I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting, and we'll see you guys this afternoon.
Sounds great. Thanks, Rob.
Thanks.